Hi everyone, it's me, Arden Lee. I am back with another video. In the last video that I posted, titled Deal with the Devil Part 1, I had been talking about how I'd been receiving these very clear, very distinct signs and synchronicities that I was being guided to consider making a deal with the devil for success in music. You might recall that in the reintroduction video that I posted on this channel a couple weeks ago as I relaunched it, I stated that my intention with these videos was going to be to transparently show some of my process in using music and magic together, using music to affect magic in my reality, and also using magic to try and achieve some success in music. And as we know, there's almost no more common trope between music and magic than that of a musician making a deal with the devil in order to have success in music or extreme skill and mastery as a musician. Since I posted that last video, I put some feelers out to figure out who I'm supposed to work with, because as I said in that video, the devil, well, that could mean a lot of entities in the spirit world. So I went and I made a post on Facebook, and originally I was asking if there were any experts in Santeria or Hoodoo who could maybe tell me if it was actually Papa Legba who was looking to work with me, since that is one of the gods who is mentioned in the text that I had been reading. And the recommendation that I received instead was to go see a certain reader. Her name is Sara Mastros of Mastros and Zealot. And rather than being an expert in Santeria or Hoodoo, one of her skills is to be able to help you identify the spirits that are showing up for you. So I went ahead and I booked that reading, and I asked her if she would be okay if I recorded it for this channel, because I wanted to transparently show her recommendations to me.
Don't let them write a contract that you're going to sign.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Sarah liked my idea of offering a song in honor of the entity that I'm making the deal with as part of the deal. But she did tell me that in exchange for a whole career, I might want to offer something a little bit more.
It's like, if all you're going to pay is that song, once you record that song, they really have no incentive to continue helping. I mean, if it were me, I would really consider like a tithe. You know what I mean? Like when I said a recording deal, 3% of that proceeds are going to, you know what I mean? And think about what you're gonna, think about what that particular devil wants there to be more of in the world.
And that's a way for us to sort of be in a mutually beneficial partnership going forward, so that we're both incentivized for my success to grow. At that point in the session, it was time for us to start figuring out exactly who I'm supposed to be making this deal with. And what happened next shouldn't even surprise me anymore. But just for the record, I'll say that embarking on making these videos about magic while it's still in process was something that was pretty intimidating for me. As I said in that video where I stated this intention, sometimes it's scary because magic is a leap of faith and you don't necessarily know how everything is going to play out. But as I've said before, by this point, I shouldn't really be surprised.
I'm gonna throw out two crossroads. I guess what I'm saying is, please allow me to preach the word of my crossroads spirits to you for one moment.
Wonderful.
So, my two favorite crossroads spirits are Hecate and Hermes, right? Who are both Greek. Hecate, I say they're both Greek. Hecate is probably imported into ancient Greece from Anatolia. It's hard to say.
I think wild that you said Hermes, though.
Yeah.
Because this was wild. Somebody I know just from Facebook wrote to me just a couple days ago and said, "Hey pal, I want to let you know that Hermes and I have had a deal for a while about some things, and he wants me to let you know that he wants your attention. I don't know what for how long, but there's only so many times you can see Arden and Hermes repeated sequentially in random places before you notice." And I didn't I know
Excellent.
of Hermes and Ganesh, as being gods of communication. I had no idea that Hermes was a god of the crossroads.
Hermes is the god of the crossroads par excellence. So Hermes is what I was actually going to recommend.
I guess you have an answer.
And I was like, okay, so let's talk about Hermes. Hermes is one of my
Just days before I had this session, a Facebook friend of mine who asked to be identified only as Matt had reached out to me and told me that Hermes had wanted my attention. And at the time, I didn't really think much of it because I didn't really associate Hermes with the crossroads. I'm now finding out, I have no idea how I didn't know about this, but apparently Hermes is like the crossroads god, and I had never really thought of him as a devil figure. I had always thought of him as a god of communication.
you can't see because I have quarantine hair, so it's like not shaved, but I have like Hermes wings tattooed on the side of my head.
Oh, how cool. I love it.
Okay, so when I say Hermes is the god of the crossroads, what I really mean is Hermes is the crossroads. So the name Hermes, the oldest form of that name is Herm, which is like an extreme, like it's a pre-Greek word. It's a word that gets imported into Greek from whatever those indigenous people where we now call Greece were speaking before the Indo-European Revolution, right? So like this is a Paleolithic god. A Herm is a stone cairn, a pile of stones that marks in later days a crossroad. But like if you think back to like caveman times, right? There's not like roads, right? There's just open wilderness that you are wandering through. And so humans would build like, I'm sure you've seen them like, because you still see them on like hiking trails, right? Like a stack of stones that is effectively a road marker. That is the oldest form of Hermes, the god Hermes. That thing is called a Herm. That's who he is. Yeah, Hermes is who I would 100% recommend. Like, that's my boy.
And so between Matt texting me that Hermes wanted my attention and Sara bringing him up as a god of the crossroads, this felt really pretty significant. I started getting that feeling in my body, like I get that little hit to the chest, like, oh, that makes sense, or I get chills all over. And so I knew that something was clicking. I knew that I was on the right path.
And that's truthfully probably who I was going to recommend, no matter what you said, because I do adore Hermes. If you got sent to me, that's 9/10 of the way of getting sent to Hermes.
Yes, right? That too. Like the recommendation for you was so clear that I was like, I know this is who I'm supposed to talk to.
We then talked a little bit about what a devotional song to Hermes might look or sound like.
If I imagine a Hermes song, it's definitely like super fast and linguistically complicated. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not just like sing song, it's really like got a lot of internal rhyme and slant rhyme and like complicated whatnot.
Yeah, that's funny because I do a lot of that in my songwriting. So I'm
sure Hermes likes you already.
Now, in the week or so before I was able to have the session with Sara, I had started thinking about what kind of song I would write if I were writing a song that were for the devil. But now understanding that the deity contacting me is Hermes, it didn't really feel quite right to just write a song that's sort of like sympathy for the devil. I felt like it had to be a little more specific than that.
I feel like Hermes would be like, but they're not really going to know it's me, right? Like, should I try and find
I mean, I feel like if it's for him, his name probably needs to be in it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So rather than writing a song that's for the devil,
well, but you could also Hermes is also a god who has been like for a, very long time historically associated with the devil.
Okay.
Right?
That's
so like
also
the Hermes devil, that's a thing. You know what I mean? But I feel like he probably wants his name in it because he's loudly demanding his name in it.
I also made sure to ask Sara's guidance on what kind of charity or cause I should tithe a percentage of my earnings to that Hermes might approve of.
He's also, at least the way I think of him, really about teaching. So I might think about like teaching music to kids type charity.
Oh, yeah.
And you could also split it between a couple different things.
So we wrapped up those last few details.
So the tithing, something about teaching music to kids would be great. And in terms of the song, something fast paced, something with a lot of, internal rhymes, something that's lyrically complex.
Hermes is unquestionably like the great lyricist.
Yeah, this feels great. I feel like I have a ton of information. I feel like I got everything that I needed out of today. I'm so grateful for this.
Sure, I'm glad it was helpful.
Wonderful.
I'm feeling pretty confident that I have the ability to figure out how to devise specifically a crossroads ritual to Hermes. I figured I should probably just go back to my friend Matt because he was the one who had referred Hermes to me in the first place. Matt told me that Hermes is actually pretty informal. So while of course I would want to be respectful in a ritual, I don't necessarily need all of the bells and whistles and Latin chants, etc. that maybe another deity might prefer. When it comes to Hermes, Matt told me that I should get mildly tipsy on an alcohol, preferably that has to do with honey, such as mead, or actually one of my favorite beers is a honey flavored beer. So that sounds like it's going to be pretty good. And then I should just talk to him and offer the deal that I want. Sara told me that I should write up a contract and really be careful in my wording, like really look at the fine print. And I'm pretty good at that because I'm pretty good at my specificity of language. So I'm going to have to go ahead and write up that contract. Matt said at that point, I can simply pour a drink for Hermes to offer the deal and go over the terms and see how it goes. Naturally, I asked if I should sign the contract in blood. Matt said that Hermes doesn't specifically have a thing about blood contracts, but he had a good point in saying that he doesn't know any god who would exactly turn one down. So for the strength of magic, and since signing in blood seems kind of apropos for a deal about, eventually getting a record contract, I think I'm gonna do it. So my next steps now are to craft this deal and go through my language in it with a fine-tooth comb, and then go ahead and do the ritual exactly as prescribed. So since I've now found clarity on the deity that wants to work with me, I've been thinking naturally about why. Why would Hermes be called to me in particular? And I have some ideas about that. And my first impression is that Hermes might want to work with me specifically because I am much more a lyricist than I am a musician. I write all my melodies and I consider myself a pretty good singer, but primarily my art form when it comes to music is not in the production and not even really necessarily in the musical composition. My skill is in telling a story and crafting clever lyrics. And maybe he might really want to see a musician who is primarily a lyricist rise to some formidable degree of success. And frankly, I'd like that for myself too. So I'm gonna wrap up this video here because I now have clarity on the deity who has been calling me, and I have clarity on my next steps for doing the ritual. So it might be a bit, I don't know. But what I can promise is that I'm gonna keep everyone posted on what goes down. So in the meantime, wish me luck and we'll see how it goes.